What's up, everybody? It's Alex Velty here. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see that my little slideshow says Alex Velty ND for not doctor. And yeah, so just FYI, this is going to be on Spotify as well under the Studio Survival Guide podcast, and it's also going to be on YouTube, so you can enjoy it wherever you are. Please don't watch this video while you're driving. I'd really appreciate that. It's just not a good idea. I care about your safety. Today, we're going to be talking about audio school. Should I go to audio school? And by audio school, I pretty much mean like music production, mixing, mastering, maybe even dipping a little bit into just like songwriting or things like that. Like music industry school might be a good blanket term to talk about all this. So that's going to be the topic for discussion today. It's something really near and dear to me as I have wrestled with this question for years, since high school and early college and even out of college. And just over the past year or so, I've had a lot of these conversations with musicians that I've met from various walks of life and backgrounds. So really excited to talk about this with you all today. Before we dive in, let me just tell you a little bit about me. And you probably are like, well, who the heck are you to tell me what to do? I'm not telling you what to do. And disclaimer, and this goes without saying, but I just want to say it anyway. This is my opinion. I'm not trying to throw stones. I'm not trying to piss people off. Not trying to start any arguments or riots. Well, maybe, if an argument happens, it happens. It's healthy to argue. It's okay. But I'm just trying to offer a perspective that I wish I'd gotten when I was applying to colleges, when I was trying to figure out this whole thing in high school as a young, impressionable lad. And so I want to offer this perspective to you all. If you love it, if you hate it, I want this to be a dialogue, not a lecture, even though you can see clearly if you're on YouTube that this is set up like a lecture, and I've got a little PowerPoint and everything that I'm going to. It's a lot of fun. It's a good time. Anyway, a little bit about me. Performing artist and instrumentalist since 2012. I started playing in these metal bands and pop punk bands, and then moved on into singer-songwriter things, me and my acoustic guitar, making music and playing shows and doing all that good stuff. Got married in 2018. And moved on to do the session musician producer thing, really through 2019, a little bit into 2020 and 21. And that was really good for a while. Of course, COVID did a lot of things to that. But now, these days, I'm mainly producing and mixing. And I quit my day job 9 months ago, which is freaking awesome. Super excited, super blessed. It's just such an answered prayer. And so here we are today, and I'm talking to you all. When I was looking into all this in college and early in high school as well, I toured and researched a lot of schools, music schools specifically, and also attempted to attend one, which that's a fun story that I may or may not get into, just depending on time and all this. So a little bit about me, a little bit about who's talking to you right now, if you were curious, which you should be curious. Don't take information from just anyone, because they may not know what they're talking about. So some info about these schools. Like, what does this all look like? What are these schools trying to do? What's the heart of it? Basically, these audio schools, these, music production, music industry schools, you might say, they're trying, which I think this is really cool, actually. They're trying to prepare students for a career in professional audio production, mixing, mastering, all that good stuff. It's a really cool concept when you think about it, especially when you take into consideration that college has traditionally been for a lot of, business major things, medical things, all this stuff, finance. And someone maybe along the line was like, hey, what about all these creatives? What are we going to do with them? The people who don't want to be teachers, the people who don't want to be doctors, the people who want to do what they've been doing or what they feel they're talented at. So really cool concept. I hope that's the heart behind it. It might be some like capitalistic, money scheme. I hope it's not that. I really want to believe it's not that. These are typically like 4-year universities, right? Like, so places like Belmont, Berkeley, University of Memphis, you're going to get there, you're going to get 4 years of education. And there's also some of these schools that are doing like accelerated 2-year programs. Like, I think Full Sail does this. I've known a couple people who've gone to Full Sail and have done the thing and come out with these like audio production kind of degrees. And so you've got a mix of schools out there, right? You've got some 4-year traditional, quote unquote, universities, and then some 2-year accelerated programs. Some people call them technical schools. All right. So that's a little bit about kind of this, music school thing. And so, and before I tell you just all of my opinions, I've got 3 big points I want to mention. I want to tell you just a little bit of a story about me. So, graduated high school, no clue what to do with college, not a single idea. Maybe some ideas, but they were all like very just haphazard, just random things. I went after an English class one day, one of my last English classes of my senior year, and I was scheduled to see my guidance counselor. And I was like, okay, I'm going to walk in. She's going to say, Alex, what do you want to do with college? I'm going to be like, yo, I want to go and do music. I want to go to a school and do music, or I just want to go do music in general. So I walk in, I've got the courage mustered up, like, all right, I'm ready to say it, even though all my other friends are saying business and finance and doctors and are choosing, these very safe career paths. And I said it, I was like, I want to do music. And she kind of paused and looked at me and said, okay, well, maybe you need to pick something more practical. If music doesn't work out, you need a good backup plan. So like for college, like maybe you should do something different. And that really upset me. It really kind of hurt me. I was like, dang, like, first of all, you don't really know me. I was scheduled to come see you, which is a broken system in and of itself. I've had like 2 conversations with this woman my entire high school career, maybe. And this was one of them. And so I'm just going, okay, what do I do? What am I going to do? I guess I'm going to go to college. So went to college, 3 colleges, 3.5 years, all equaling up to 0 idea of what to do next. And so I, started in undeclared, decided to declare like a music production and like worship production, like music school thing, ended with a philosophy degree. It was a mess. It was a huge mess. And I exited college, got my diploma, and started working in a coffee shop and thought about going back to school for like more education, and then ended up just going, you know what? Like, I love music. I still love music, and I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm just going to start doing it again and find the people who love doing it too. And we're just going to make it happen. And so that's brought me to where I am kind of now. So I'm curious, with all that said about me, where are you? And this is the biggest question I want you to think. What is influencing your decision to go to school or to go back to school? Okay, my decision was fear that if I didn't, I would be a failure. Not every person in my family had the opportunity to go to college. And so there's a little bit of pressure just like subconsciously there of like, wow, like I've got this opportunity that they didn't necessarily have. Like, I don't want to waste it. And I definitely don't want to, not go and then my life just fall apart, because it seemed like all of the advice and all of the vibe I was getting from these guidance counselors, from my peers, from teachers is, hey, like, the kids who go to college for 4 years are successful. The kids who go to college for 2 years are kind of like the underachievers, and the kids who don't go are destined to fail. And so that's, really the impression I was given in my days in high school and early college. And so when you think about it, and I pulled some of these line items from a Gallup poll about why people go to college. And for some people, it's education. It's actually a really one of the top ones. People go for education, obviously. And education's great. You want to be informed. You want to be taught these awesome things that maybe you wouldn't learn otherwise. Education's awesome. I'm super for education. I've taken actually several courses over the past couple of years since I started doing this freelance music thing, and they've helped tremendously. Getting a job is another reason people go. They want to make a little bit more money. Goes along with that. They want to make more money and get a better job than maybe they would have if they didn't have some kind of specialized training, because college can give you very specialized training. My wife is in college right now, getting her doctorate in occupational therapy, which is super cool. And she couldn't just go out and start doing that. Like, she really needs that training. Community is another really big one. Community is great. I had an amazing community at John Brown University where I was doing the music production and worship thing. It's super cool, super cool stuff. And some people go just honestly because they've got scholarships. And that's honestly like part of that's a very viable reason to go. Is like, hey, I've got scholarships, so I'm just going to go. This is going to be great. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. Pretend this is a lecture and I am the professor and I'm up here just taking a sip of coffee from the class and you're taking notes. Not while driving, by the way. Do not take notes while you're driving. Okay, and then some of the other, or one last reason people might go, parental pressure, right? Some people have very supportive parents who want them to go and maybe are a little too pushy and are like, hey, I'm not giving you choice. I care about your future so much that I'm going to make you go to college. Or at least I say make you go to college with big air quotes because they technically can't make you, but strongly encourage you and maybe give you ultimatums if you don't. So anyway, those are some reasons. So I want you to think about all that. I want you to think about, why would I go? Why would I go back? Why would I decide to go now? Bottom line, in my book, in my opinion, my view on this whole thing is college is probably not the best thing for your music career. And there are three main reasons why I think this. So first of all, music has virtually no gatekeepers that necessitate the need for, such an intense prerequisite like college. So, and I'll unpack these all more in detail later, but really, there are no, if you wanted to start producing music, if you want to start playing shows, all you need are your wits, your talents, and just the drive to go do it. There's no one saying well, you need a degree, or you need the certification to go play at this coffee shop. You need this thing to, record this local band on your MacBook. There's no one telling you any of that. Okay, so that's reason number one. There's no gatekeepers, and you can really just kind of do the thing. You don't necessarily need college to do music. Two, practically speaking, interning at a local studio or shadowing a producer will yield a more current, real-world learning and understanding of the music industry. So, again, unpacking this later, but briefly, I think of it as, what's better, going and reading a book or learning under a professor who's trying to tell you what the music industry is like, or walking into a studio with someone who's recording a client who wrote a fresh song that is about to be released in today's climate, in today's technology. That to me sounds amazing. That's this is happening right now, and I get to watch it and learn, get my hands on it. It's incredible. Okay, the third and final reason that I'm going to mention today is debt. For the sake of the length of this, I'm not going to unpack debt too much right now, but this is where I get on my soapbox. I get so fired up about this because I care so much about you. I care so much about your future and how dangerous and awful and mean debt can be to a musician. So without further ado, class, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can follow along with the slides. People listening on the podcast, thank you for listening. I'm going to try not to reference the slides too much, even though they kind of are my guide. So, hey, go back and watch this on YouTube if you want. Take notes if you feel like it. Okay, so point number one, music has virtually no gatekeepers. Okay, I mentioned this, just a couple minutes ago. There's no one telling you, hey, you can't go do that because you don't have a degree. Hey, you are not qualified enough. Now, granted, that is all to say, if you wake up one morning and go, I feel like recording multi-platinum records. Sounds like a good idea to me. And you go and buy a microphone and an interface. You're gonna struggle for a minute, and all of this is you're gonna struggle for a minute. Every new thing to learn, when you just get started, you're gonna suck. You're gonna be so bad, it's gonna be horrible, and sometimes it's just gonna be awful. You're gonna make awful music. You're gonna have awful experiences, but there's no one telling you that you can't learn this. Sometimes the hard way. Sometimes rediscovering a talent you didn't even know you had. Anyway, I digress. But there's no gatekeepers, no one telling you can't. And I think of this as, the day of Elvis versus the day of Billie Eilish, right? So when Elvis was recording music, he went to a specific studio. He was allowed into the studio. Not just anyone could walk in and cut a record. You needed to know people. You needed to know people who knew people. Nowadays, Billie Eilish's music is just released. I don't know if she's signed now. I have no idea. But from my understanding, when I've watched Phineas do his thing on YouTube and listen to interviews, dude's just making music in his room with mics that you and I can buy off of sweetwater.com, and he's just going for it. You can just go for it. It's super cool. There has never been a better time to make music because of how accessible everything is. You can just get it, and you can just go, and you can start learning. And no one can ultimately tell you no except for your fans. If you're awful, the market or your fans will tell you you're awful by either directly, hopefully not directly, that'd be mean, either directly or by not showing up to your shows or by not sending people to your studio or by not working with you. And so really you are the only one, who is your own gatekeeper, or your fans might be your only gatekeeper. And your music will do well if people love it. If they dig it, you're going to succeed, at least to some extent. And sound is so subjective, and subgenres are so many, like metal bands, right? Like I've produced a metal band before and come home listening to the demos, and my wife is like, what on earth is that? What is that? What are you doing? What is that noise? And I'm like, it's music. It's awesome. And so there's really there's so much room out there for people to make weird stuff, to people make, super offensive stuff, for people to make super cool stuff, whatever you want to make. And it's not like you're going into the field of business or medicine, right? There are standards in those fields. There are not always standards in the music field. There are some rules. There's some things that are good to understand and follow, but it is not nearly as standardized as everything else. And so with that being said, point number one is really there's no one telling you that you have to have a degree or a certain training to go and start or continue doing what you do in music to make a living or make a career out of it. Okay? Number two, big point number two, interning at a studio or shadowing a producer will yield a more current, real-world learning and probably way more opportunities. So think about it this way. Reading a book about dating versus dating, right? Like if I want to go, and there's merits to reading a book. Okay, I've read a lot of books. I love books. I think they are so helpful for learning new skills, for understanding concepts and applying them to your life. But the thing is, you have to apply them to your life. And if it's between the two, I would much rather go out and do the thing and maybe mess up a couple times than sit and read a book and not get a chance to do the thing for a while or at all, maybe. So all that being said, when it comes to shadowing a producer or interning at a studio, you get to watch all of this stuff happen in real time. And this brings up a story. So I love stories. I'm a big story fan, so I might be telling a couple throughout this whole thing. I was touring at the University of Memphis. It was beautiful. The library had a freaking Dunkin' Donuts in it. I was in heaven. I was like, this is the place. This is where I'm going to be. This is where I'm going to go to college. Go to the studio. Studio's incredible. Their music program is freaking awesome. So cool. I walk in, I sit down with all these people. We're chilling. We're waiting on the instructor to come in who leads the audio production engineering program. Walks in. We're all super excited to hear what he's got to say. I'm looking around. There's beautiful outboard gear everywhere. There's these monitors. It's a beautiful studio. He sits down. He's like, hey, my name is such and such. Don't remember his name. And he says, going to be completely transparent. I never went to college. And I just kind of was like, okay, interesting. And he says, but I've worked with Taylor Swift, Meghan Trainor, and he starts mentioning all these artists, all these bands, and my mind's just blown. And then I take a step back. I'm like, he never went to college. Hold up. No, he never went to college. He didn't do it. He didn't do what I'm doing right now. And I was like, wow, what if I could just go sit at his studio? Or what if I could message him on Instagram or Facebook or just get his number or something and just be like, hey, can I come hang out with you and see what you do? And it just hit me. I was like, why do I need to be here? I don't need to be here. I want to hang out with this guy. I don't want to do all the other school stuff and take the general education classes and do all these hoops and these tests. I want to just go hang out with that guy and watch him make records. And so, you think about it. Imagine you decide hey, I really want to get some experience. I'm thinking about getting this kind of training. What if you went to a producer, right? And producers love to feel like rock stars. We all do. It's a good feeling. And let's say you walk up to a producer or your local studio or someone you've contacted online. And you say, yo, you are so cool. Can I come and watch you do the things that you do and watch you make music? I just think you're awesome. They're probably going to say yes. That's huge. It's it's just awesome. It's so cool. And if they say no and if they are super mean, then you don't want to hang out with them anyway. But There are a lot of people out there that probably be like, wow, like, someone thinks I'm cool. Yeah, sure. Come on over. Like, that's just so cool. And even if you had to pay someone to shadow them, and we're going to get into this a little bit, it's going to be cheaper than tuition. You're probably not going to have to go into debt for it either. I've been quoted by a couple studios in my state and in a surrounding state, a couple of like day rates for me to shadow them, and it like includes lunch, and it's not nearly as expensive as tuition. It looks expensive on a sticker or on the invoice they send. It is nothing close to the cost of tuition. And I'm going to get to sit and watch them work on music that's being made today. Like right now. I'm going to get to watch them do exactly what's going on in this world right now because that's their job. It's amazing. And two, get this, you might work yourself into a job by being in there. Like you might be so good at what you do. You might be learning from them so well that you become an asset to them. And I've heard this story told a couple times just on some resources I've listened to, podcasts, things like that, where people are like, yeah, like started as an intern, was grabbing coffee, asked a couple questions, so-and-so didn't show up. It was just me. And dude was like, hey, you wanna run this session? And I never left. Like that could be your story. That could absolutely be your story. And you don't need the permission of a university to get you an internship or to tell you, hey, like you can go do that. You can just do that. It may take some work. It might actually take a lot of work to really find that person. But if you stay diligent and you really go for these people and you start contacting them and really telling them you admire them, because you probably do if it's someone that you genuinely admire, eventually someone's gonna respond. Someone's gonna say yes. Guarantee it. Last point, okay, number 3, and I'm gonna try not to get like super angry. I don't get very angry, but this topic gets me very upset. Okay, the debt you will probably accumulate from school is going to be disproportionately way more than the income that you are likely to earn from your music for a long time. Okay? The debt you're going to gather in music school is probably going to be way more than you can afford to pay back with a musician's income. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm not trying to be, a jerk who doesn't believe in you. All I'm trying to say is that the world of music is not as predictable as the world of medicine or finance or business. You are not guaranteed a job after graduating a school of music. Okay? If a medical professional graduates with $150K in debt, if a dentist graduates with $150K in debt, that's a lot of money. It's probably going to take them a minute to pay it back, but their salary is guaranteed at a certain amount. Yours is not. Okay, it's going to take a while. You're still going to need to practice. You're still going to need to vet yourself. You're still going to need to prove to clients that have the money to pay you a certain amount, or fans or venues. You're going to need to prove to them that you can do what you say you've done. A degree doesn't mean anything to a venue owner or to a client who wants to record a record. A degree means nothing. They want to know that you are a good hang, as they say, which just pretty much just means that you're a great person to be around. They want to know that you can do what you do and do it well. They want to hear some of what you've done. Anyway, I digress. This can be a really horrible situation if you graduate with an enormous amount of debt and struggle to pay that back with a musician's income. And there's this BS, I'm just going to call it what it is. There's just this total BS that we're fed. It's called good debt versus bad debt. And if you ask someone like Dave Ramsey, it's all bad debt. But my big question here is just food for thought, by the way. Why are we letting 18-year-olds take out $100,000 in debt? Right? Like that to me never made sense. I felt so coerced into making this decision for college when I was in college. I was like, everyone's telling me that this is good for me, but why don't I feel good about it? Why am I taking out all this money when I don't know what I'm doing? And someone let me do that. Like a debtor let me do that. It was easy. It was so easy. And yeah, it could be a horrible situation if you go, especially because these specialized music schools can be so expensive. You can spend, 25 to 30K a year. Let's say, you think of the sticker price of Belmont is about $40K. I'm not picking on Belmont. I may have said this earlier already. I'm not trying to throw stones. I'm not trying to intentionally hurt anybody or go for anyone here. I'm just stating the facts that, like, the last time I checked, the sticker price of Belmont was around $40K. Not everyone's going to get full rides to Belmont. It just can't happen. I had a horrible ACT test score and an okay GPA and just about no other accolades. And so my scholarship would have maybe got me in, I think I probably would have had to pay around 25 to 30 a year out of pocket, quote unquote, out of pocket, out of debt to make that happen. So let's just say on the generous side, you do 25 a year. It's $100,000 in debt. And so the tricky thing here is do you have scholarships? Do you have good scholarships that can give you a leg up in a very expensive school? Because none of these schools are very cheap. Now I'll give an honorable mention because I know someone who has done this really well named Dylan Davis. Look him up on Spotify, look him up on Instagram. He's incredible, super talented. I think he just graduated a music school and he's got a great following. He's killing it. He's doing so good. But I don't know a ton of Dylan Davises. I don't know a lot of them out there. Not everyone is coming out on top like he is. And so you have to weigh the opportunity cost. What is this worth to you? Is it worth going into a lot of debt or a little bit of debt for the education, the community, the kinds of things that these colleges are promising you? And you really want to just take that seriously and let that soak in for a minute. And it is sad that an 18-year-old or maybe someone in their 20s or 30s who's going back has to really just think about this so hard. But especially a younger person to have to go, gosh, I guess I need to think about taking on 80 to 100K in student debt. That's really hard, And again, I'm totally open to that being entirely wrong. Last time I read the numbers, that's what it was. And so the bottom line is debt and musicians do not typically go very well together. I don't think they ever go very well together at all, quite honestly, just because of how hard this is to do for a living. It's worth it. It's 100% worth it. But when you get into the weeds of it, it's very difficult. So all that being said, there's nothing wrong with school. There's nothing wrong with going to Belmont. There's nothing wrong with going to Berkeley. I know for a fact that there are some incredible people out just floating around this world, very famous, well-off people who've gone to those schools, who are killing it. But I also know some people who were not Cody Fry, who were the roommates and suite mates of Cody Fry, who, they aren't Cody Fries. They aren't just absolutely just dominating the world with this incredible niche education. They're doing well, some of them, not all of them. Some of them are probably still paying off some of that debt. And so I just don't think that if you are looking for a long career in the music industry, that college is the answer. I don't think it's the answer. I really don't. And I think of all this, in the words of Gandalf, I'm not trying to rob you. I'm trying to help you. I don't want you to take this and go, Alex hates school. Alex hates education and music colleges. I really don't. I think they're super cool. When I was at John Brown, which specializes in actually a few like worship arts and like music production and things like that, it was an incredible community. I loved it. I actually had a really good time. Ended up having a mental breakdown and leaving. However, for what it was really good. But there were those factors of, okay, like I want to shadow someone doing this. I want to just get out in the real world and see this happen. And the factor of debt, I'm like, I can't handle the idea of, for me, it would have been around like $80,000 in debt by the end of it. I was like, I don't think I can do that. I don't think it's for me. And so I would be remiss if I didn't share that thought with you. I hope I used that word right, remiss. But it would be a shame if I didn't share this with you, because I wish someone would have shared this with me. I wish someone would have shared the alternatives with me. And yeah, I hope this is super helpful to you, and I hope that you got a lot out of this. I want this to be a dialogue, as I said way earlier. If you hate this, if you love this, tell me why you hated it. Tell me why you loved it. Like, give me the lowdown. I want to talk about this. And if you're looking for more like resources and educational stuff to help you in your music, you can reach out to me personally on Instagram, or just like look at my Instagram page. I've got a ton of stuff up that's just aimed at helping people with furthering their music and making better music. And you can look me up on Instagram. And all this is going to be in the descriptions and all that stuff, by the way, on YouTube and on Spotify. But you can look me up at Alex Velty Music or alexveltymusic.com for my website. If you're listening on Spotify, you're listening to the Studio Survival Guide, which is my resource to help artists and musicians survive and ultimately thrive in the music industry, as I am also striving to do as well. You can look me up on YouTube, just Alex Velty Music, and you can also email me, and I'm going to put that all in the description. So hope you got a ton out of this. I hope that this sparks some great conversations, and I want to know what you think. So reach out to me anytime, and I would love to talk about this. So cheers, everybody.